Oh my goodness gracious me. BBC fires radio host over racist royal baby tweet. But was it really racist? I guess everyone kind of agrees it was. The royal baby was born. And there was one article that said something like, how black will the royal baby be? And a bunch of people got offended. I guess they changed the headline. So here's this guy, Danny Baker. He deleted the tweet, but it circulated widely online and drew outrage for its racist imagery. What did he do? Well, you've seen the title. He posted a photo of someone holding hands with a chimp wearing clothes. Now, of course, the New York Times and others aren't going to show you this image. At least I believe they won't show you the action. But I will! Because talkradio.co.uk shows the tweet. I don't know what this website is, but apparently this is it. Royal baby leaves hospital, and there's a lady holding... It's a funny picture. It's a chimp. He's got a little cane, a little bowler cap, and some kind of coat. It looks like he's wearing pants and shoes, too. It's a funny tweet. However, because people know that the new royal baby is mixed race with black heritage, this is crossing the line. So he's been fired. He's apparently just axed. He deleted the tweet. He apologized for it. I think it's rather a simple circumstance, like, oh, okay, hey, don't do that. But no, we live in the cancel culture world. You do one wrong thing, you're gone. In fact, it's not even about that. I mean, you could say something, and they'll just snip it out of context to try and destroy your life, because that's what everyone's doing. Everyone just wants to destroy everybody else. Well, actually, no, it's usually people on the left. Yeah, and then I get criticized for pointing that out, but it's true. It's not conservatives who are doing this kind of stuff. No, Steven Crowder is going and sitting down and having conversations with people. A BBC radio personality was fired on Thursday after tweeting an image of a couple holding hands with a suited chimpanzee, alongside the caption, "Royal baby leaves hospital." I think that's funny, but I get why people would presume it's racist. But there's some important points to be made. You know, if this guy didn't see racism there, that kind of makes an interesting point about who the racists really are. If people on the left saw that image and assumed it had something to do with being black, that's on them, right? Let's read a little bit more. And there's some tweets from Majid Nawaz about this. The radio host, Danny Baker, who had an anarchic Saturday morning call-in show on the British broadcaster's national news and sports station Radio 5 Live, posted the tweet Wednesday evening, hours after the Duke and Duchess of Sussex introduced their newborn son to the world. Mr. Baker deleted his tweet within hours, but it circulated widely online and drew outrage for its racist imagery. British social media users called for the BBC to fire him. He announced his firing with another tweet Thursday morning. Oh, do they have the actual tweet? They do. Let's pull that up. Radio 5 confirmed the news in a statement, calling Mr. Baker's initial tweet a serious error of judgment that goes against the values we as a station aim to embody. Here's a challenge. Was Danny being racist? No, I'd be willing to bet a substantial sum he wasn't. He just didn't know. So we're really entering this world where everyone assumes you must know what you're doing at all times, and there's no room for error, and there's no room for being ignorant. If you just didn't understand something, too bad. You're fired. Just got fired from BBC 5 Live. For the record, it was red sauce always. I don't know what that means. Someone said, I honestly thought your account must have been hacked. No, listen. Look, if I see that image, I can understand why it was a bad move. But if he genuinely didn't and deleted it and apologized, what more should we do? No, they fired him. That's crazy. And what's even crazier is how many people do you think were actually upset by it? I'll tell you this. The average person probably thought, whoa, that's not, you shouldn't do that, man. And then when he says, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, I'm just, an old man, and I'll take it down. Okay, good, take it down. Let everyone else know. No, instead, there's a small sect of extremely loud people who call the BBC and say, fire him. So they do. No more mistakes. They used to say, the saying goes, why do pencils have erasers? Because people make mistakes. We need to allow people to do better. And this is insane that he made a dumb tweet and is getting fired for it. And Majid Nawaz does get into this. Actually, we'll go to Majid Nawaz. We'll come back to this story. So Majid Nawaz said, and Majid actually tweets the image out. He said, Danny Baker is guilty of being ignorant of racial context and history. He's not guilty of racism per se. I don't believe he deliberately set out to be racist. Such an accusation requires evidence of negative intent. But what he said since being sacked is evidence to the contrary. I agree with Majid. This is why I think Majid's a good dude. And then he posts this story from the Coolest Monkey in the Jungle story. Danny's clearly guilty of ignorance of racism. But unless one is able to distinguish black babies from chimps in their own mind, showing intent is crucial before saying he is racist. Intent and context must matter, otherwise this becomes unexplainable. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this Coolest Monkey in the Jungle story, but it was H&M put they have this young black child wearing this sweater that says Coolest Monkey in the Jungle. It resulted in riots. I believe there were riots in South Africa because people thought it was racist. So I guess, I mean, the thing for me is I understand the racial context in history over the comparison of black people and primates, and I understand why that's wrong, why it's like why we shouldn't do it. Listen, I feel like people are somehow just ignorant to this. It's like they're shocked when they find out I'm on the left. I think hate speech is wrong. I think we shouldn't be offensive. I just don't think authoritarians should be destroying people's lives because he made a dumb tweet. Here's my stance. Danny, that was a mistake. There's context behind that you need to understand, and this can actually strip social cohesion. We've got a bunch of different people of different races and backgrounds, and we need to live together. That means we need to be respectful to one another. However, we can't have an authoritarian system destroying someone's life because people are outraged and screaming with pitchforks. That is not social cohesion. That is worse. So, in fact, it is better for society that someone stands in the street corner or tweets something racially insensitive than we allow authoritarians to rip the fabric of our society apart. It's that simple. So, yes, I think Majid's right. And actually, I think people like Majid and most of you probably agree. We don't need to be dicks to each other. We can try to not be offensive. Like in the instance of the trans debate. I have no problem using anyone's pronoun that they want me to use. I'll call you. You can call me. I'll call you whatever you want. You want me to call you Spider-Man? Sure, I don't care. There's no impact on me, right? The difference is when the law comes in and says you have to do something. Now we're seeing small groups of activists enforce through authoritarian means what people can or can't do. Listen, you can't force someone to say something, but there is nuance, right? Twitter, for instance, is hiding behind a First Amendment defense when they say they can ban whoever they want because Twitter claims they're speaking for you. I disagree. Twitter is a platform, not a publisher. If Twitter was a publisher, sure, that argument would make sense. But Twitter is a platform, meaning when you speak, it's your speech on a platform. You're on a stage, right? If someone builds a stage and you stand on it and yell, they are not speaking. It's still you speaking, and that's a distinction that needs to be made. But somebody responded saying, this is one of the instances where the outrage mob have a point. I can't think of any possible acceptable explanation he could give to why he tweeted it. I can think of a million. I don't think the guy should be crucified or hounded, but he had to face consequences for this. It's called, look, it's strike one. You know what? Imagine in baseball, it's like you get one chance to swing and then you're out. Like, that wouldn't be a fun game at all. You get 3 strikes, right? That seems reasonable. Sometimes you get less. It just depends on what you did, right? Obviously, life isn't baseball. The point is, it's a funny picture. He was making a funny picture about an old-timey photo of a chimp wearing a suit. It wasn't meant to be a dig at anybody based on racial grounds, and I think it would be absurd to imply that. It's just a funny picture from the internet, and he posted it. So you can't think of anyone. That's the problem. This person, Adam, can't think. Like, they don't realize that other people know other things. This is one of the biggest problems humans have in general. I recognize that I know things you don't. Isn't it crazy that people don't realize this? I have no idea how to build a house. No idea. I don't even know what screws you would use. Well, I don't even know what the name of the wood is, right? I go to the store and they're like, this is called birch and this is masonite. And I'm like, bro, it's wood to me, okay? But I recognize something. There's somebody at that store over at Home Depot or that Lowe's who's going to tell you all about wood. They know so much more than you do. So here's the thing. If I post a photo of a tree and I get the name wrong, are you really going to destroy my life? I get it. Racism is different from getting facts wrong. The point I'm trying to say is it's obvious this guy, Danny Baker, doesn't know some things. And we should recognize that some people just don't know. We want to educate them. We want to ask them politely. And that's how you go about building social cohesion. Instead, what do we have? People who are pretending, who claim to be anti-racist, who are very racist. They attack people and destroy their lives. And why is this guy fired over a tweet? It's insane. Why was Roseanne fired? They destroyed her show over a dumb tweet. And most people would agree. I'd be willing to bet because I've seen people express this, that if Roseanne did a quick, like minute PSA at the beginning of a show saying, I tweeted something that I didn't realize was insensitive, and it was a learning moment for me. I'm terribly sorry for this, and I hope we can move past it. And just know that I've learned from this mistake, and it will never happen again. And let this be an informative moment to everyone else who might not realize what is insensitive about these things. Think about a society that does that. Wouldn't that be great? Because then you can have people being like, I respect that, I appreciate that. You're trying to be a good person, right? You're trying to not hurt someone else's feelings. You're under no obligation, right? You're allowed to hurt other people's feelings. That's too bad. We don't want a government coming down and telling us no more, you can't hurt anyone's feelings, because then no one will say anything. So Majid says, so KF Banhart tweeted, agree. He was so blinded with his dislike of the royals, he couldn't see the implicit racism in his tweet. Self-righteousness led him into error. Perhaps. Or perhaps he just didn't understand the context. It's not a world he lives in. Majid says, this is probably a more accurate psychological assessment of what happened. It's important to be accurate and calmly consider the evidence available. When the aim is to banish individuals over a single tweet, the social media mob is rarely right and gets it wrong most of the time. Of course they get it wrong. Of course they get it wrong. Context is so important. And I want to stress something. There's context in a statement, but there's also cultural context that exists in the news cycle and our culture around an issue. And the best example I can give is a tweet the left likes to share of me, where it's a very short snippet where I say something like, I don't trust the New York Times, and I think the InfoWars is more like the Huffington Post. What they're not showing you is the conversational context. InfoWars had reporters on the ground at a bunch of Trump rallies. So in that regard, they were acting kind of like the Huffington Post, going there with a conservative pro-Trump narrative for InfoWars. Obviously, it's very different from what Alex Jones does. I don't trust the New York Times specifically referred to a particular story that was being talked about in the current news cycle. Of course I trust the New York Times. They're NewsGuard rated, and I've said 50 million times, for the most part, they get it right, and that's fine. But what they do is, they take one snippet where you've got multiple layers of context, right? Like, imagine right now, the New York Times wrote a story that said Godzilla is real. And then InfoWars wrote a story saying Godzilla is not real, the New York Times is crazy. Those things are very obviously right and wrong. So you would say on camera something like, oh man, I certainly don't trust the New York Times. And they're going to take that clip and make it seem like you're talking about everything the New York Times has ever done. And that's what they did to me. That's what they do to me all the time. Because it's not just the context of so I'll give another example. People like to take snips from Dave Rubin. And I just don't believe him anymore. When they'll take a snip from Dave Rubin where he says something and say, this proves it. And I'm like, listen, let's say I said something like, personally, I really just like ham sandwiches. You could take that clip and then be like, this is proof that Tim likes a ham sandwich. But the reason I don't believe them is because maybe someone said something like this. And John said to me, I hate ham sandwiches, but John said to me that personally, I like ham sandwiches. And then I said, John, you're crazy. I do not like ham sandwiches. You see how you can strip that? It's hard to know unless you have the full clip, you watch the full thing. And social media is a tool, or the design of social media strips context so easily. Just so easily. And when people are absolutely just wanting to win those brownie points, here's the thing. You know what mob mentality is? When a group of people start, getting into a riot and smashing things, someone gets punched in the face, falls to the ground. Other people start kicking and stomping on them. It's mob mentality. They just beating the crap out of this person. I've seen it happen. I have seen this stuff happen in real life, where it's like normally in a small group, you'd avoid the confrontation. You wouldn't fight. But when everyone starts pushing, then other people are like, hey, I'm going to join in too. And they do it. Twitter is mob mentality 24/7. Everyone just wants to jump into the fight. They don't care what is right. They don't care what is true. They'll destroy this guy over a dumb joke because he happens to be dumb. Let's be honest. Here's what we can really say about this man, Danny Baker. Danny, you're dumb. That's it. Now we can move on. He keeps his job. He says, oof, yeah, maybe I was dumb. That was stupid. He'd probably agree. He says, oh, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I didn't realize. I talk about civil war or conflict or something. I don't even think that's the conversation that matters, right? I think it's an afterthought, because what's really happening, if you were, in my opinion, social cohesion is being torn apart. And I think social media plays a huge role in this. We've got to do something to stop this, and I don't know what necessarily, but my God, can I see the problems, and I know you can too. And there are people, you know, there was a story recently about a mother writing about her son becoming alt-right. And I think that's a really good example of any kind of radicalization, not the right, also, not just the right, but the left as well. These people on Twitter who are attacking this guy, Danny, over this dumb tweet, they're the same thing as any alt-right online community. It's a group of people that want to feel socially accepted, and they're in a mob, and the mob mentality has taken over. We have created 24/7 mob mentality that won't stop, and it's basically an ongoing riot nonstop. Seriously, this is what Twitter is. The culture war is the fact that social media has enabled a nonstop information riot where people are trying to literally destroy everything all the time because everyone else is already doing it. How do you stop the riot? Honestly, I have no idea. I don't. But think, you know, I've been, a good example would be like Occupy Wall Street, I guess, where there were a bunch of protesters, there was a fence, and someone started shaking it, so then someone else started shaking it, and eventually everyone started pushing on it, and it started to just, when you've got 300 people and they all just push very lightly, wow, that is amazing. You know that game Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board, where you get like 10 people and you each put like 2 fingers under someone, you can lift them up and it's super easy? It's because all of your force together, it's like, wow, you feel strong. That's what happens. That's what we're seeing online. The only problem is when the protesters break up and leave, that mob is over. But now the mob never ends. Never. Everything you do will be weaponized by the mob, and all of their little moblings are going to join in the fight and go crazy with lies and smears to try and destroy you because it's mob mentality. Man, you know, I just built a mini ramp in my backyard. You know what that is? It's a skateboarding ramp, like a little half pipe. That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. This is a nightmare. That's going to be fun. And I'm going to go make videos about that. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But that's one of the goals. That's like the point of doing it, is to produce content away from this and make content that's more upbeat. As I said in, I think a video the other day, sometimes I do science videos. I try to do them relatively often so that you leave the day without hearing about how bad things are, and you can break your mind out of that cycle of like the mob or whatever. But I'm going to be doing skate videos. I got some friends, and we're going to try and put together a series, and it's going to be fun. So I'll leave it there. I'll see you guys at 1 p.m. for the next video. Yeah. Adios.